Greetings and salutations. Welcome to the Movie Blog. This is your audio edition for Tuesday, March 1st, 2006, and this is the best damn movie-related podcast on the internet, and perhaps the best podcast in the world. It's possible. As always, I am your host. I am the founder and the editor of the Movie Blog. My name is John Campea, and joining me as always on a rare non-Monday roundtable edition, first starting to my immediate right, or my immediate left, I can always get them confused, Canadian comedian, regular audio edition co-host, Mr. Doug Nagy.
International friends, I salute you. I reach deep into my bag of candy and pull out a 2 weeks notice that says, "Fuck Bell Canada." I gave notice at my job today. I'm very happy to share that with all of you.
Congratulations
Thank you.
that. And for sharing that, I'm quitting note with us.
Yep.
And
Done. Like dinner.
Sitting to his left, or my far left, to Doug's right actually, is another former Bell employee, on some level I think, a long time ago, Mr. Darren Conley.
It's good to be here with you again, and I'm actually Doug's boss, and it's going to be sad to see him go, hard to replace him. I think we've lined up a sack of potatoes and
that's right,
a midget.
And a midget.
Yeah.
How delightful.
It takes two things to replace Doug.
You mean dwarf.
That's right.
Oh,
or little person.
Is that the appropriate
yes,
terminology?
dwarf or little person.
Sorry.
That's
Those
okay.
tiny freaks, I can never sort them out.
Politically incorrect, Darren.
I'm terrible. I'm a bad person.
Well, that's besides the point. But let's dive into it here. We got a few things to cover. I'm going to start with item number one here. A picture was released, not just some fan-made picture, as we've been apt to see in the past, but rather the official picture released by Marvel, or by Sony, on their site. It is the new picture for Spider-Man 3, and it's a picture of Spider-Man kind of very much in a Batman kind of pose, crouching down on a rooftop. And at first you think it's a black and white picture, but lo and behold, it's not. It's actually Spider-Man in a completely head-to-toe black outfit.
The black outfit.
Yes. Now, you guys have seen the outfit?
I have.
Yes.
Your thoughts on the outfit?
It's looking good. I'm a little surprised that they're already going to jump into the Venom storyline. If they decide, I'm going to guess they're doing the Venom storyline with the black outfit. Soon in the series.
That raises a question. Go ahead, Darren.
Well, I was going to say, though, I saw two pictures online. One, which is the official released black outfit that still kind of shows like some webbing on the costume. Like
the perforated webbing
stuff.
And everything. Yeah.
That's right. And then there was actually a fan-made edit of that photo, which showed the Spider-Man costume from the actual comic book with the white spider across the front, which I thought looked a lot better than what the actual black costume is supposed to look like. So I don't know like how Venom-y necessarily this movie's going to be, because it's not the black costume from the comic book. It's a modified kind of version that they're using for the movie.
Yeah, but the black costume in the comic book looked kind of stupid.
Wouldn't
translate well to screen.
The picture I saw, though, like the fan-made picture of it, was really cool. They just edited the official release picture and put the white spider kind of across the chest and stuff.
And they put it on Vanna White.
Well, that raises the question, though. Is the black outfit supposed to be him as Venom, or is it just supposed to be a black outfit?
Who knows? At this point, maybe they will just introduce the black outfit, and maybe in Spider-Man 4, 5, or 6, they'll let it out of the bag that it's an actual creature. Because in the comic book, you didn't find out right away that it was an alien symbiote, did you? It was a nefarious symbiote?
I didn't read the actual comic where he got the black costume, but I read comics that like flash back to it and stuff, and it was like it was in that stupid Secret Wars storyline, and they were on another planet, and there was a little kind of blob that crawled up his leg, and
the Venom symbiote
just became his costume, and it would actually transform into civilian clothing when he wanted it to, and so I guess it was to kind of like save him from having to carry around packs of clothing and stuff with him. He could just kind of do the morphing Mystique from X-Men maneuver.
I imagine it'd be very handy.
Oh, definitely. Definitely. You could essentially be naked day and night and nobody would know.
I'm wearing my own Venom symbiote.
You just have to be careful when it's time to use the bathroom.
That's right.
Get it out of the crevice.
Oh, they find urine delicious. Can't get enough.
It's one of the benefits of the symbiote.
There's times I'll hear the symbiote whisper, "Drink more water. We love your piss." so I drink it. We're buds. We become good friends.
I put a post on my blog about drinking piss the other day because apparently there are people who, this is completely off topic, but who are actually promoting the drinking of urine as a health benefit.
I've
liquid.
both heard that before, and I've read that on your blog.
Are you fucking kidding me?
No, it's true. But bringing us back onto movies and Spider-Man
from Spider-Man to drinking your own piss.
Now, some people, a lot of people have commented on the post I put up about the Spider-Man outfit, and a lot of people are speculating. Some people saying, "Oh, it's official." Somebody wrote in one of the comments, "It's official. You look in the eye of Spider-Man, you can see Sandman." Because in some of the other previous movies posters, you look in the eye, you can see Doc Ock, or you can see whatever. But no, you can't see Sandman in his eye. I think it's just somebody wanting to see what they want to see. Pardon me. In the picture, Spider-Man's looking down at his crotch and looking down at his knee. The reflection is a storm. The reflection is just nothing. It's not Sandman in the picture. You clearly see. I blew up the picture in Photoshop. I took a good look.
How long did you spend blowing up the picture in Photoshop?
Days. I sent it to the CSI lab.
I camped out in a mountain.
You have to do like they do on TV, where they blow it up and then they click that enhance button,
where it magically crystallizes.
Yes, it magically shows you whatever you need to see.
Now, here's the other thing. You bring up maybe they'll save it for film 4, 5, or 6. So a lot of people are speculating, oh, well, this is what's going to happen. They're just going to introduce Venom and really get into him near the end, and then Venom will be the guy in movie 5. They're not really going to do much about Venom. The problem with that is, that's number one, that's wishful thinking. Sam Raimi and the people at Spider-Man have never thought ahead of whatever movie they're working on. Sam Raimi did not do Spider-Man 1 thinking about Spider-Man 2.
Well, but
he did not do 2 thinking about 3. And
are you sure? Because there's the scene in 2 where Osborn comes across his father's suit and everything, which seemed to suggest that they were setting something up for.
Well, I mean, I think that opened up the possibilities. I think they definitely, but I don't think they created the plot of film 2. Well, I think at the end they threw in a couple things you could segue into, but they've been planning to do Venom for a long time. And I remember even after they started production, we did a story in the movie blog that Raimi wasn't even sure if there was going to be a 4th film, or if there was, that he'd even be involved in it. And so I think, now some people will say, well, Venom is too big of a story arc. You can't just do it in one movie. I disagree. I'm sorry, but 99% of movies start and end. Like, they start when you don't know anything about any of the characters, and they end with the ending. You didn't know anything about Doc Ock. You didn't know anything about the Goblin. You don't know anything about, well, look at the first Batman. You didn't know anything about Joker. I mean, aside from history, but in terms of the film, you don't know anything about any of them. Ever, in any movie. You get introduced to the character, and then the film ends. And I think we've been over this 100 times, pardon me, where fans of comics are so convinced that a movie version is going to follow the way the comic does it. If Peter Parker in the comics has this big, long struggle with the symbiote himself before it goes on and becomes Venom, that's the way they're going to do it in the movie. Hey, look, Raimi hasn't stuck to the comic at all. He's stuck to the spirit of the comic very well, but he hasn't stuck to the comic. I don't know why people think he's going to break tradition. I think this film is going to be 2 villains, which I'm nervous about. It's going to be Sandman.
I'm not that pumped about that.
It's going to be Venom. And we're going to see maybe a little smattering or suggestions of Harry Osborn as the new Goblin, but even he said in an interview recently he's got 1 or 2 sequences, so I don't really think we're going to see the Goblin much in this.
You know, though, I don't know how they could pull off Venom without completely redefining that character, unless they had some sort of build up to him. Because in the comic, he was with Spider-Man for a long time. But
who cares? You don't even need to go. You don't even have to go into that.
But the whole point of the creation of Venom was that when Peter Parker got rid of the symbiote was pissed off at Peter Parker ditching him, and found the Eddie Brock, the guy who becomes Venom, who also had developed this hatred for Peter Parker, and they bonded based on their hatred of Peter Parker. So you have to have some sort of build up.
You're
to
assuming
that point.
that any of that has to be there. You're assuming that any of that has.
You can take that out. You can take that out. But if you do, it's a completely different Venom than we've ever experienced in the comic book. And I don't know how fans will accept that.
I completely disagree, because the first couple of comics that I read with Venom in it, I knew nothing of his origins. And he was still just the sheer savagery and whatever of the character is what drew me to him as a character. I didn't know any of his history. It doesn't matter.
But Venom looked like Spider-Man, right? Venom, like...
You're right, they do have to come up with something, but that can be solved in a 30-second quick segment. They could introduce something to suggest why.
The other thing in the comic was Venom had the web powers just like Spider-Man did, because the symbiote actually created the webbing as well as imitated his costume. In the movies, Peter Parker makes his own webbing, so is Venom going to have the web powers too? Like he does
who knows?
In the comic?
He could maybe use like symbiote tentacles.
Okay,
that's what I would do if I had to do that. But I do hope they stick to the story in this situation, because it's a good one. I've read them.
Yeah, I have a trade paperback that kind of collects all the Venom stuff.
But Raimi hasn't stuck to anything yet.
Well, Raimi has, though. If you look at the first Spider-Man, the origin story is pretty close.
And how fast did they do the origin story? How fast?
Well, they
15 minutes?
I'm not going to say they didn't do it quickly.
That's
but they did
fine.
A good job.
But with the Venom story, you have like it's all about this angst that the symbiote and that Eddie Brock has developed, and then they want to take revenge. And so you have to, if you can do in the course of half an hour or 45 minutes, making two brand new characters hate Peter Parker so much that you believe that they want to bond and kill him, and that you're going to have this symbiote that imitates Spider-Man's look in black. You know, if you can do that all in that much time, okay, maybe. You have to somehow get the symbiote in there in the first place. You have to introduce the characters. You have to make them hate each other. You have to have believable story for all of that.
All can happen
right?
in 5 minutes.
No, not believably.
I think absolutely you can. You can have all that happen. One of my great fallback things for this, and I'm not saying I dislike the Venom comic storyline. I'm not suggesting that at all. I'm not saying I wouldn't like to see that. I'm simply suggesting Raimi hasn't stuck to anything yet. He's stuck very faithfully to the spirit of it, but he has taken massive shortcuts to accomplish what his vision is, while still maintaining the spirit of it, and I think he's done a terrific job. I'm not saying I don't want to see the accurate Venom comic line. I'm simply saying Raimi doesn't need to still pull off the spirit of it. You could have the symbiote simply attached to one character who has a deep hatred for Spider-Man, and because they're linked, that passes through. You could explain that in 10 seconds. One of my favorite fallback things is that scene in X-Men 2. We've talked about this before, where they're at Iceman's parents' house. Right. And they had this, Bryan Singer talked about, they had this like 7, 8, 9 minute long scene all planned out that reflects Pyro's, that was supposed to explain Pyro's lack of family life, how much he was jealous of what Iceman had, and all this kind of stuff. And they cut out the entire scene and just had like a 5-second shot of Pyro looking a certain way at a picture of Iceman's family on the wall. They replaced a 9-minute scene with a 3-second glance. And you can take a 30-minute plot setup and do it in a 3-minute scene. It would have to be skillfully written. It would have to be done. But Raimi has proved so far he can take these shortcuts and he can make it happen.
I'm not saying it's not possible, but if you do that with Venom, I believe you take away from the depth of the character that you're creating by reducing him in that way. As a fan of, I'm not a big fan of Spider-Man comics. I don't own a whole lot of them, but as a fan of the character and of the Venom character, I myself would prefer to see something where it was carried over to movies, or at least introduced in one movie and comes to fruition in a second movie. That's just me.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with you. I'm simply saying it's not what's going to happen. I don't believe that's what's going to happen. So I'm with you in the one sense. I'm not with you in another. But look, Goblin, they set up a plausible, believable who Goblin is, why he does what he does, and why he hates Spider-Man. With Doc Ock, they established who he is, what he became, and why he hated Spider-Man. I'm saying with Venom, while it is longer, and they'll have to commit a little bit more screen time, you can do it, and you don't have to. You can spend less time now on Spider-Man and Peter Parker because we are well established with who he is. We are well established with who Mary Jane is. We are well established with Aunt May. We don't need any more introduction or any more character basic character development with those characters, and those 5-10 extra minutes, then you can give 10 full and 10 minutes in screen time is an eternity.
Right, as we're proving with the video right now.
You can give 10 more minutes of screen time to Venom than you gave to Doc Ock in an introduction thing and still get it done. Once again, I'm saying I agree with you that it would be better to see it that way. I'm simply saying that's not what Raimi's going to do. Raimi had Part 3 planned out as Part 3 with Venom before he even knew if he was going to be back for Part 4. And I think this is going to be I think this is going to bookend. I think you're going to see Venom introduced, and I think you're going to see Venom gone at the end of it. I hope not. But I think that's what's going to happen.
I'm still not convinced Venom's even in the movie. Has that been confirmed?
It is confirmed, yeah. Kristen Dunst let it slip in an interview a number of months ago.
I hope she's not in the movie.
Topher Grace is indeed Venom. So anyway, let's move on. We've got a couple. I spent far too much time on this. I'm going to jump a couple issues. I'm going to jump down to item number 2 here. News has been released on an Arnold Schwarzenegger fan site, but it's not any ordinary Arnold Schwarzenegger fan site. Like, it is the quintessential Arnold Schwarzenegger fan site. Even Schwarzenegger himself said this is the site. That basically explained, and is picked up by other news sources, that the studios are in the planning stages for a next Conan film, and they're doing it with Arnold in mind.
I knew it. What did I say?
What did you say?
What did you say?
I said they're going to get fucking Arnold Schwarzenegger. That's what I said.
I think you said you hope they get Arnold Schwarzenegger.
No, I said it's going to happen with him. I said the universe is going to align, and Schwarzenegger's going to fucking pick up the sword of Conan, and he's going to kill shit.
Okay, now, it should be said that this is what the studios have said, that they're planning with him. But they said nothing about whether Arnold has agreed to any of it.
Oh, fuck, he's game.
Yeah.
He is fucking
you know what?
game.
His political career is coming to an end. He's got to do something with his time.
His political career is coming to an end. He may try to reinvigorate it, but here's the thing. I just saw a picture of him.
Yep.
He's disgusting.
What?
You know what?
He is flabby and disgusting right now.
But I'm sure he can get back into shape.
He can get back
It's not
into
like his
shape.
muscle has just disappeared.
He's not 40 anymore.
How old is he?
He's approaching 60.
He can get the craziest Bulgarian horse steroids that none of us could afford.
You can't. You can't just go, oh, I'm going to be a bodybuilder again. You can't do it.
My dad is 60, and he can still beat the living crap out of me.
Yes,
and he is no Schwarzenegger.
But does he look like a bodybuilder?
He's a pretty big
guy.
And
I'm going to submit to you. I've seen your dad. Your dad can
tall,
beat the crap out of all of us put together.
Yeah.
But you can't tell me in 1 year he can go, like, none of us in this room in 1 year can go from where we are now to looking like Conan the Barbarian, especially if we were 50 plus years old.
Yeah, but this is Schwarzenegger.
It doesn't matter.
Wasn't he ranked like the most fit man on the planet?
He has been fitness advisor to the president.
Yes, yeah. Which was a real important.
And he never lost a bodybuilding competition, ever.
You're right, in the 70s, correct.
That's right.
In the 70s, you are correct.
Yeah, but muscle tissue doesn't just disappear when you get old.
As a matter of fact.
It doesn't magically transmogrify into fat.
Well, I'm telling you, he's disgusting.
It might be flabby because he hasn't worked it for a while.
Muscle doesn't just go soft. Muscle tissue is muscle tissue.
Yeah.
It is either there or it's gone.
Yeah, but it doesn't magically disappear. Your body might consume
some fat doesn't magically. You're right. Fat doesn't magically disappear.
Why the fuck are we talking about fat and muscle? Shut the fuck up. This is boring. Who cares? He looks like a fucking slob.
I'm just saying.
He's still going to be Conan, and I think he's going to get in decent enough shape where he looks like an old king that's been drinking too much beer. Fuck it.
Yeah.
These are details.
No, I'm agreeing with you, Doug. I'm saying he gets in the gym for a good 6 months and he's ready to go. Like, he doesn't have to be Conan from the 70s. He can be Conan getting older and still kicking some ass.
This is where I get on board. Now, I still think it's time. I think he should give it up. I think it's time to pass. I think it's time to pass the torch to somebody either like The Rock or some other new star, some whatever. I think it's time for him to pass the torch. Now, however, having said that, and maybe I'm not a rocker on this. It wouldn't be the first time. If they did tell a story of an aging, past his prime Conan, who is now taking up a mentor role to train either be it his son or some other guy who's an heir to the throne or something like that.
Young barbarian proteges.
Yes! Like, I hear barbarian, barbarian co-op placement.
Right.
You know?
Barbarian intern.
Yes.
I need you to blow me. But Conan, please. I think this is what I'm feeling. I'm feeling Conan. Army needs a leader. He goes out, one last hurrah, dies in battle. Valhalla.
Valhalla?
Maybe. I mean,
Is he Asgardian, Conan?
Well, yeah. In my version, he's
honorary Asgardian.
I could, in this concept of a King, Conan the King, that I could see. Then that I could see Arnold fitting in, fully clothed, and you're not going to see him running around just a loincloth anymore. At least I don't think, and I don't want to see it.
He's got to be in ornate gold-ass armor.
I could see that.
He's a king.
Yeah.
Shit.
As long as two things happen. As long as they don't try to pass him off as the same Conan we saw in the 1970s or early 80s.
I think he's going to have a haggard beard. I think he's going to have his chest exposed with white chest hair. I think they're going to burly it up.
Burly
well,
would
if
be
they
good.
did that, and we as fans don't expect to see the same Conan we're used to seeing.
As long as it's not the Conan from the second one, because that was a bag of shit.
But he looked good.
He did, yeah.
Yeah.
Then in that case, I'm on board. So I'm totally on board. But I got to tell you, though, honestly, I like the Conan movie. And I would rather see more adventures of the younger Conan the Barbarian.
Well, they will do that eventually. There's no doubt.
Why not now?
Because the story of Conan the King is a great one that can be told.
Okay. Well, I'm on board. I'm on board with it. I'm very hesitant. No, I'm sorry. I got to disagree with you guys. Arnold in the gym for 6 months is not going to turn him back into Arnold Schwarzenegger.
By the time he hits Conan, he's going to be in better shape than he is now, and you can admit that.
Well, sure.
Yes.
Better shape than he is now.
Okay,
doesn't say much.
He's not going to be.
We'll
a slob.
see. We'll see what happens. But that could be good news. Let's go to item number 3 here. I put up a post about this, about red flags when studios won't release a film for critics to review in advance.
It's kind of like blood in your piss.
Now, I can't remember the name of the Wes Craven movie that was out. It might have been called The Curse or something like that. I can't remember the name of it, but it got some play like, oh my God, this is just last year. They're not releasing the show to critics. That's not a good sign. And sure enough, it got released, and everybody hated it. Then also last year, The Fog remake came out. And it was like, oh my goodness, they haven't released this for critics to even review.
Dukes of Hazzard 2, right? I don't think they released Dukes of Hazzard.
I think they did release.
Did they?
I think they did. But maybe they didn't. I could be wrong.
But
with The Fog,
bigger movie, we freaked out and like, okay, it's going to suck.
Well, that might have been The Fog we were talking about.
Or was it Fantastic Four?
No, Fantastic Four. God, but at any rate, and sure enough, The Fog was one of the most horrible films all of last year. It was absolutely terrible. Now, I just said, let this be a flag that, in all of last year, 7 films weren't released for critics to review. Already this year, 8.
Really?
Wow.
8, and 4 of them debuted at number 1.
Well, we've talked about that before, where if it's a horrible movie, it's a wise strategy.
Yes. Now some people then went on and wanted to argue the point with me in the comment section, basically saying, well, hey, you shouldn't listen to critics anyway. If there's a movie you want to see, go see it. And to that, I don't disagree. I think they were just missing my point. My only point is that if a studio doesn't release a film, because studios are publicity whores. Remember Sony even a couple of years ago created that fake critic to give positive praise. Studios will do anything to get buzz, anything at all, no matter how big or how small. And my only point was that if a studio knows that its film sucks so bad that it is absolutely guaranteed to get hammered by the critics and thus don't release it, I'm simply saying that should be a warning to us as filmgoers that they're not going to release it for critics to see. I don't care if a critic doesn't like the film. It concerns me when the studio doesn't like the film. And all I said was that should be a warning sign to us before we go.
Yeah.
I think it is certainly a warning sign. One of the things that I would like to see and it's the only thing that hasn't been tried yet, is releasing a film that's so horrible when all the critics pan it, then you launch your ad campaign saying, come see the worst movie made this year, and pump how horrible the movie is.
You know, I saw something like that for, I think, the DVD release of, like, Geely or something like that. I
remember they actually played up how bad the movie was.
Yeah, maybe, I think it was on a DVD I bought recently. Maybe it was on the previews. They were like, come see the worst film in J-Lo's career, and blah, 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 blah.
You know, I don't even know that was the worst film in J-Lo's career. Her career is pretty wretched.
But why not? I bet you they sold some movies because of that.
Yeah, it's true.
Probably more than they would have otherwise.
Absolutely.
You know what, though? I like, just for me personally, I do like to hear a critic's review of a movie before I go to see it. And the reason being is that, unlike you, John, I actually have to pay $14 or $13 to go into a movie and see it, and I'd like to know that what I'm paying for has a good chance of not being complete crap.
Yeah, now some people, you know, it's all in vogue to say, oh, I don't listen to critics. People don't listen to critics. You know what? People do. Because, you know, when you go to the theater...
People listen to us, for fuck's sake.
Shit. When you go to the theater, and you got to spend $10-14... And there's two things, and I like this phrase, all other things being equal, and there's two films you're thinking about going to, and one you read, every critic has completely hated, and the other one's getting, 50%, 60% reviews. I'm sorry. That influences people, and they'll go in. And a lot of times, critic reviews do not influence in time for opening weekend. Right. And so, thus, you get a Pink Panther that was pretty panned by the critics. I mean, not universally hated, but pretty panned, and yet it still has it can have a decent opening weekend. That's fine. That's great. All I'm saying is that, as much as we maybe like to think, I'm not saying whether people should or shouldn't listen to critics. I'm simply saying it's a fact of nature that we do a little bit. It does influence us a little bit.
It's a fact of nature in the woods. The deer will only eat berries that the other deer say are good.
Well, all other things being equal, fat people use more soap.
That's right. Sure is true, Darren. I watch enough Bathe to know that.
Okay. Well, anyway, let's move on to item number 4 here. This one I can't believe this. A commenter left me a link to this, and this story has blown me away. We do not have time to go into the whole story, so I'm going to give you the Cole's notes of it. But I have a post up right now about the Superman Returns video game trailer.
Okay.
Which, as a side note, I love the trailer to this video game. Not because I think the game looks any good, not because I think the graphics look any good, but I just got chills hearing the John Williams Superman music and seeing Superman flying in and out of buildings. To me, that just gave me chills. I just loved that. Anyway.
I play that music every time I get dressed in the morning.
And then that Emperor's theme whenever you're from Star Wars, whenever you're getting undressed at night.
That's right.
I actually play the Superman theme when I'm getting undressed. It's better for my self-esteem.
You pull the buttons apart.
That's right.
Crap, it's still there. Right. But they left a little comment with a link to this, and it's amazing. A lot of people know that Bryan Singer's Superman Returns is not the first attempt at a new Superman movie that Warner Brothers has been making. They've been actually going at this since like 1997, trying to get this new one made. It's been under different directors, different producers, and now here it is. And the person left me a link to the what is the proper pronunciation for the Wikipedia? Is it Wikipedia?
I say Wikipedia.
The Wikipedia.
Yeah.
And if you go there and go to look for Superman Lives, on the bottom of that page is a link to the story going from 1997 up to 2004 of what has gone on with Superman.
Wasn't it originally going to be written by... Oh, why the heck can't I remember his name? The guy who did Mallrats. What?
Kevin Smith.
Kevin Smith was supposed to write it.
Oh, yes.
And I heard a rumor that Tim Burton was going to direct it, and he wanted giant robot spiders.
Really?
Actually, you're right. And apparently never put Kevin Smith and Tim Burton in the same room.
Wow.
Well, that's not a big surprise.
So here's what happens.
I don't think they go to the same parties.
If I understand it, now I just read this about 2 hours ago, and it's a long read. So go and look up the article. Go look up the article yourselves, and then correct me where I'm wrong. But basically, here's the gist of it. After the rights get shuffled back and forth during the 80s and into the 90s, Warner Brothers ends up with the rights. And there's a whole convoluted story that goes on before this too. But we get up to Kevin Smith's involvement. They approach Kevin Smith. A guy by the last name of Parker was hired and nodded, who was like Warner Brothers' little pet producer. They hire him to produce. And Kevin Smith gets brought on to consult. Kevin Smith looked at the script they had and said, "This sucks." And they say, "Okay, then you write it." So Kevin Smith, who is a very big comic fan and loves to stay true to comics, he starts writing a script. Parker, the producer, kid you not, and Kevin Smith talks about this. One of the things he asks, "Who's this Kal-El you keep talking about?" This is the producer of the movie.
Yeah.
Now, keep that name Parker in mind, because Parker is a big part of this story. So who's this Kal-El? Anyway, so he writes this story, and Parker decides, no. Let's not make Superman fly. Because apparently he hated the original Superman film. And hated the effects and hated the way it looks on film.
He hated the Superman flu?
Yeah.
Why did they bring him on as producer if he hated the first Superman film?
Let me finish. This gets better and better. So basically then he starts completely dabbling in Kevin Smith's script. And just going, that we want him to be this. So let's make Lois Lane pregnant. With some kind of immaculate conception. Let's do this, and just totally. I'm not even doing this justice. You have to read for yourself for how much he interfered.
I heard Kevin Smith he talks about this in his spoken word tours.
Yes. So anyway, what happens is Tim Burton comes on board as director. Tim Burton really wanted to do it. Tim Burton hates the comics.
Oh.
And he, like Parker, hated the visual effects of the first one and didn't like that Superman flu, wanted to take him out. Tim Burton wanted Superman to have a super vehicle that flew him around, or to teleport from here to there. They didn't want to see Superman flying. Tim Burton wanted to take out the Superman costume completely. He hated the costume. So he wanted to take that out completely and have him wear this outfit that's kind of translucent so you can actually see Superman's organs. Too. It's some of the most ridiculous things I've ever read.
It's not Superman.
Because he stayed close enough to Batman where it was actually Batman in the first two.
You could see his organs. That's like that show that used to be on Saturday mornings with the guy in the bodysuit where you could see all his innards.
That was Richard Simmons, Darren.
Oh, that was Richard Simmons.
No.
Well,
I don't think it looked a lot like Richard Simmons.
It was Richard Simmons.
Was it Richard Simmons, really?
Yeah, he did like a health show where you could see all his guts on his leotard.
Oh, cool. Anyway.
Leotard.
I found that oddly disturbing and arousing, that show.
Keeping in the theme of Batman, because, he had just done Batman, he wanted to take away most of Superman's powers and make him gadget-reliant. Like a whole bunch of Kryptonian gadgets, including this one thing called the Stick. And the Stick was going to be this thing that talked to him and, held the essence of Jor-El in it. And
a stick that talked to him?
Yes.
Like Kit on Knight Rider.
Something like that.
In stick form.
In stick form, yes.
What if we need this kid in a stick?
And that Brainiac was actually created by Jor-El, but then Jor-El got rid of him once he had his own son, and Brainiac actually destroyed Krypton, and then Brainiac comes to Earth, and him and Lex Luthor merge into one creature called Luthiac. I'm not making this up.
If this movie actually happened, we probably would not see any of the comic book movies over the last 10 years.
No. So Nicolas Cage gets brought on. Cage is a huge fan of the Superman comics. He starts arguing with Burton about this. He wants to wear the tights. He wants to wear the Superman outfit. Blah, blah, blah. Blah, blah, blah. Nicolas Cage is gone. Tim Burton and Parker there are still pushing ahead with their new re-envision thing. They even said they hated the Superman fans.
Oh,
they said this: if the Superman fans don't like this, they can pool their money and they can go make their own movie.
Why? But the thing is, why even call it fucking Superman at that point?
Yeah, call it Organ Guy who talks to a stick.
Shit. That's like me driving my Firefly around and telling bitches it's a Porsche. Give me a fucking break. For those in the States, it's a Geo Metro. Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway,
crazy.
but it continues. It continues.
Uh-huh.
Where this Luthiac... Oh, yeah, and Brainiac brings Doomsday
Right.
to Earth. And Doomsday has a big fight with Superman. Apparently, Doomsday bleeds kryptonite. Superman dies, and then Doomsday just leaves, and you never see him again in the script. He's gone. And so the stick resuscitates Superman.
Oh, that wonderful stick.
And he's not recharged by the yellow sun. He's recharged by the power of self-belief.
Oh,
You
jeez.
just have to believe in yourself, Corel. Or Jor-El.
That's like a bad kids show.
Oh, it's awful. Finally, WB has enough. And, oh, yeah, and Superman's supposed to wear this black outfit with, like, that made him look like his joints were mechanical, and he was going to be like, And they finally said at one point, well, just imagine that it's a whole new character just with the same name, Superman. Well, what's the point?
Yeah.
So anyway, WB finally has enough. They give Tim Burton the boot, which is what I think more studios should do, is boot Tim
I
Burton.
do
Anyway.
like Tim Burton.
And Burton wrote this book or whatever and started bad-mouthing, lying about what happened, started bad-mouthing WB, and started lying about all this crap.
Was the Parker guy still around, though?
Parker is no longer attached to the project, from what I understand.
Okay.
So yes, Parker is gone.
Should see what other movies this guy's fucking destroyed.
Who, Tim Burton or Parker?
Parker.
Oh, yeah.
Parker apparently was one of the producers on Batman.
Really? Strange.
So I just thought that was kind of a interesting and twisted tale.
Do you think they just really wanted to get back and do Batman again?
It
sounds
feels
like
like
it,
it,
yeah.
doesn't it?
I think the moral of the story should be, if you're making a movie based on comic book characters, get people who enjoy the comics
Yeah.
to be working
and
on
I've
the
said
movie.
1,000 times, I don't care. I don't even think you should try to stick 100% to the comic, because you change mediums, you got to change some things to make it work. I'm all for making changes. I'm all for that, but at least stay to the spirit of it.
Well, because the whole reason that the character is worth making a movie out of is because the comics are loved and appreciated, right? Like, you can't bring in someone who says, I hate this character in comic form,
Yeah.
let's make him into a movie that has nothing to do with the comics and hope that the fans still accept it, because that's not going to happen.
Okay, well,
So
let's close things off with this. I got the last topic here. Recently, at just outside of where the Oscars are being held, a women's group, and I can't remember the name of the group right now, who is protesting that the fact that there aren't enough female directors in Hollywood, dressed up a King Kong statue right by where the Oscars are being held in drag. And they put up a poster that basically said, of the top 200 films of 2005, only 7% had female directors. 14 female directors.
They want all these bitches buy a camera and start shooting films.
they're
Like, seriously, that's retarded,
because
man.
they're too busy dressing up giant apes in drag.
Like, fucking go outside and shoot. It's just a numbers thing. Don't be upset that you don't have the numbers.
Yeah, and the
Okay,
top
well,
these
wait a
top
second.
films are like, fans have decided these are the top films,
Okay,
right?
no, wait a second here. Wait a second. It's not as simple as saying go grab a camera and shoot. Who pays for it?
Hey, man.
So here's the question I have. Here's the question. Now, is this number, because that is kind of a shocking number, 7%.
Right.
So my question is that 7% reflective of a chauvinism in studios not wanting to hire female directors, or just a legitimate lack of talented female directors? Or is it a combination of both? Like, because it's not as simple as just saying go grab a camera and shoot, because most women I know don't have $100 million laying around to make a movie.
You know the wrong girls. Well, I'm sure it's a bit of both, but I have been to a few film classes that I have friends that have taken it, and I would say 95% of the people in the class are dudes.
Yeah, it's true.
That's not totally inaccurate, because I've been in a couple of film classes as well.
It's all dudes.
and it's mostly guys.
It's like when you go to a cosmetology class, it's going to be mostly girls.
Not the one I went to.
That's fine.
I can make you pretty.
That's right. Well, I could use a finger curler too.
Oh dear. Yeah, I think it is just not a lot of women in the industry. I was reading a blog of some woman who worked in the film industry, and I cannot remember the name of the blog right now, but she was saying she puts up with a lot of crap on set from like just comments all through the day, people like grabbing her ass and blah blah blah. Like maybe the industry itself has to somehow change to be more accommodating to women wanting to be involved in it in the first place, and then you're going to have more movies with female directors and on, right? Like, there are females out there. I've been on set for a few things, and I've seen female assistant directors.
You were in La Femme Nikita, my friend.
That's right. I was bodyguard number 4 to the villain in an episode of La Femme Nikita. But yeah, like, I've seen many women in I don't want to say lesser roles, but in roles other than director. In different projects, right? Costuming, casting. You have a lot of women.
Lots of women
like
on
that, right?
set. The question is, why aren't more of them directors?
Yeah,
and running the show.
It's a good question. I think the industry is probably not open to it in the way that there is a lot of chauvinism in the industry, and B, like,
well, I've heard they prefer to be producers because they like to tell people what to do.
And there certainly is no shortage of female producers.
No.
Certainly not as many as men, but interesting quandary.
I don't think you can blame the fans of the movies or necessarily the
I don't think anybody's blaming the fans of the movies. I think it's, why aren't there more female directors? I agree with Doug. I think it's probably a mix of both. I think there is some predisposed studios that are more likely to hire a male director, but I also think it's just a numbers fact. There's not as many women involved.
I would say it's more of a numbers issue than a
chauvinism
issue, yeah.
Because I think studios invest a lot of money. I would think if I was a studio, even if I was a chauvinist son of a bitch, I would think I've got $100 million invested. I want what's going to give me the best chance to get a good product and make me my money back. And even if I'm chauvinist,
Wicked Will Smith quote when somebody asked him something to the effect of, "Is Hollywood racist? Why don't you see more leading black actors?" He's like, the only color Hollywood cares about is green. If you got the skill, they don't care who you are.
Maybe they just hired the directors by taking them out to strip clubs, and the women don't like as much, and so they can't make the business meetings.
Now that's a generalization.
Oh, Darren. We almost got up through this whole show. Okay, anyway. We're going to wrap it up here. We're at 41 minutes. Thank you very much for joining us here for the audio edition. I want to thank my guests, my co-host, Mr. Doug Nagy.
Thank you, international friends.
La Femme Nikita star, Mr. Darren Conley.
Thanks.
And my name is John Campea. Thank you for joining us, and until next time.
Bye-bye.